Alright, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the TMossBoss Show. And in today's episode, I wanted to talk on how there are some haters out there that'll have a weird obsession with people, and it's not healthy. But that's the thing, though. You can't explain that type of stuff to them. You can't explain to them what's healthy and what's not healthy. All they see is it's right for them to have this obsession. And I can say firsthand, like, yeah, I done dealt with haters like that. And I even done dealt with some fans like that, you know, where it's like they have like this weird obsessive behavior. And I'm like, with the fans, I had to say it's a little bit more easier to get through to them. But with a hater, it's like, yeah, you can explain it in a million different ways. I guess they won't have an understanding of it until they actually go through with it. And I can say that I actually seen that happen to one of my haters. So back in 2015, there was this hater that he really had it out for me. Like, he had this weird obsessive, like, because he was an obsessive fan, and then he ended up being an obsessive hater, and then he was just going back and forth for being an obsessive fan and obsessive hater. And so there was a day where he declared his hatred. Like, he was all like, no, I'm always going to be a hater and this and that, blah, blah, blah. And so he came back to the channel, and I remember I just snapped on him. I think some people may know who I'm talking about. Is this kid named Glenn. And so I snapped on him. At the time, there were some fans that seen how annoyed I was. I ain't gonna say that I was mad, but I would say that I was a little frustrated. But yeah, more so annoyed. I'm like, you put yourself in this position, right, where you keep, and no, so this, because I remember he would, I feel like all haters, they all operate the same way. So he would post screenshots of whatever it was that I was posting, but he had like tabs open. I think it was him that was doing that. It was either him or the other obsessive hater that I was talking on at one point in time, the Twitter stalker, the racist Twitter stalker. But they all have like the same mentality and things. If he hadn't, then but I do feel like that I had seen that at some point in time where he had like all of my socials and all that stuff open, and it's like, what am I posting about where you feel like you need to have all my socials open? Like, that's one thing that I'll never understand, you know, about a hater. And that's the thing where it's like they want to make it seem like that it's trolling, but I'm like, so you purposely, it ain't even on some stuff, because it's like, at least if you admit to being a hater, it's like you could say that you got like some sort of, not a condition, but it's like you do have a problem, you know. But I feel like with trolling, it's like, so you're just purposely wasting your time. Like, I don't get that. You know, it's like, even if it is on some stuff where you're trolling a bunch of different people, I don't understand it. I'm like, there's different ways of going about. I just feel like the most common way of, I guess, not wanting to be bothered with somebody that you don't like is not going to their channel. But anyways, getting back to the Glenn kid. So no, it was funny because there were some fans at the time that had they've seen how annoyed I was with them, so they gave him a taste of his own medicine. And yeah, it was funny. He posted a video of himself crying, talking about like, I need to tell my fans to leave him alone. And I'm like, you put yourself in that situation. I told you numerous times to get off of my channel, and what did you do? You kept coming back. Now look at what you're going through. You're crying on the internet and people are laughing at you. And I know people are going to try to make me feel bad, all like, oh, he was a kid, man, why would you? I'm like, I don't care. My thing is this: if you put yourself in an environment where if somebody is telling you, stop bothering me, let me be, leave me alone, and you still just bypass all of that and you keep bothering that person, hey, whatever happens, happens. It's one of those things where I'm like, it's out of my, you know, internet jurisdiction and stuff. I'm like, I'm content with my own little area. Anything that happens outside of it, that's on that individual. So, but yeah, I try to at times with content creating explain to people, I'm like, you know, hating ain't gonna get you nowhere. All it's just gonna do is just get you right back, just a constant circle, right back to where you started. And yeah, it's just for some reason people, they just don't pay attention to that. They don't listen to that. And that's why I'm like, you know, I've tried to, I guess for the longest, I did try to, you know, be a calm, cool, and collected, responsive person to the hate. But yeah, as the years went on, I'm like, you know, you guys had every chance and opportunity to let me be, and you continuously keep coming back to my channel. Then yeah, if I say something offensive, don't be all like, oh, it's TMossBoss said this to me, he said that to me. Do you think I care? Do you like honestly be real with yourself? Do you if I say something offensive to you, do you think I'm going to care? Because I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. I guess you know it's a little spoiler alert for future videos in case of content like that does come out on me. I don't. I have no reason to care. You know, it's like you're a hater and stuff. And just like, but on top of that, being an obsessive hater where it's like you're abandoning your day to day life. And I mean, just even a life that you could have had so you can sit around and watch what I'm doing. But I mean, it ain't even so much as with me, but it's like other people where I've seen, I'll never forget. I remember when PewDiePie, when he started doing try not to laugh challenges, and he was posting about like some haters, and then even KSI, I remember he was doing I think it was like Q&A videos, and then yeah, there were people be hating on him and stuff, and I'm thinking to myself, you could avoid this. This is easily avoidable. Like, why do you keep coming back? I'm really, I try to piece it together the best that I can possibly can do it. What did, whether we're talking on PewDiePie, I guess some people might have their reasons on why they hate on PewDiePie, but KSI, for an example, people be hating on his music, and I'm like, look, I might not, there's some of his songs that I listen to, I ain't gonna say that he's my all-time favorite artist, but I ain't gonna say that he's the worst artist that I've ever heard. And the thing is this though, if you're expecting them to have some high-quality music, like Michael Jackson, or the Beatles, or I'm trying to think of some other, but yeah, if you're putting his music on that scale or on the scale of anybody within his genre, it's like, fam, he's not them. He is his own person. So whatever comes to mind creatively when it comes to his music, that's what he's gonna put out. But nah, you know, you just got people out there where they want to be obsessive with it. But overall, though, you know, if we can, because I feel like I've asked this question before, if we could just go, you know, spin back on that question again. What did the individual that you have this obsessive hatred towards, what did they do to you personally? That's one thing I ask every time when I notice an obsessive hater, if I see them more than a few times, either on social media or in my comment sections, wherever, if I see them quite a few different times, I ask them, what did I do to you personally? And that's a question that they can never answer. So I'm like, I ain't do nothing to you. So you just willingly just going out your way, just hating on somebody, and you think you're going to accomplish something at the end of the day. Here's the thing. I feel like that people need to understand the outcome of being a hater, an obsessive hater, whatever form of hater, one of those, what was they calling it back when I was dealing with hate, the criticism haters, you know, it's like, oh, the constructive criticism haters, you know, it's like, oh, we're not hating, we're just giving you constructive criticism, regardless of what you want to call it. This is usually the outcome for haters, all right? Because look at how long the internet has been around. Look at how long websites have been around. Social, you know, like social media people. I'm saying like you see it every day where it's like somebody or something is elevating when it comes to content creating, the internet, just the internet in general, right? How many times have you seen a successful hater? Let's just look it up real quick. How many times has a hater been successful? Let's just see. AI overview. There is no exact statistical number of how many times a hater has been successful because success is subjective. However, high achievers recognize that criticism is a natural byproduct of visibility. Successful people use detractors as fuel rather than letting negativity derail their goals. So, long story short, there ain't no successful haters. There's never been a successful hater. And even just if I could just talk on my own experience, fam, I was dealing with the worst possible hate that I could have dealt with, and for a 4-year period. And then that's one thing that I never really acknowledged, that at the same time of dealing with Just a Robot and his fans, I was dealing with the the Tank Engine fans, that cartoon that's meant for kids, but it was full grown adults that were upset with me at some comments that I made. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, there's numerous times, I guess, when they make comments about black people, right? They say, oh, black people only good for doing this. Black people only good for doing that. I never show no reaction. I never get upset because I'm like, I know they ain't talking about me because I I ain't did none of those things. And I'm like, so they were like, oh, all black people do is go to jail. I ain't never been to jail. I'm trying to think, I think the only time I've ever been to jail is when I played Saints Row 2. And that was because the beginning of the video game has it where you start off in jail. But other than that, I'm like, my record is clean. So that's why I'm like, I ain't trying to jinx myself. I ain't trying to, make it seem like, oh, that's what I really don't know where. Yeah, it might be a situation where I'm out somewhere, get into a fight with somebody, and then I get arrested. But usually, for the most part, currently right now, I ain't never been to jail. So whatever the future holds for me, I don't know. But overall, speaking for now, I ain't never been to jail. But it's funny though, because a hater of mine, he said that he was like, it was funny because it was prior before he did his last video on me. He said the next time he'll do a video on me is if I ever go to jail or something. I started having a successful, rise of, like my content was, pretty successful back in 2024. And it was funny. He had no reason to make a video about me. There was like, he didn't gain nothing. I ain't gain nothing. There was nothing to gain out of making that video. He just willingly, so the real reason on why he made a video about me is because he seen that I was, very successful at the time. So he wanted to capitalize off of that success. He wanted to generate some views. Nobody cared for that video. I think the only people that cared for that video were the 100 people that commented on the video. But other than that, nobody cared, bro. It was one of those things where it's like, okay, we're not here for that. We're here for the voiceovers. And that's the thing. Obsessive haters, they have like this mindset. The thing is this, you can watch any movie, and even the movie that's out right now, Obsession, but there's so many different movies out there where it talks on like obsessive behaviors and stuff. And that's the one thing that you see is like when people, they say you need a doctor, you need help. They don't hear none of that. For an example, so besides this movie Obsession, I feel like a movie where it's like one of the OG Obsession movies is Fatal Attraction. Now, for those that have never seen that movie, pretty much the main character, Michael Douglas, he starts cheating on his wife, sleeping with this woman. She began to get all obsessive. I personally, because I think they said in the movie she was pregnant. I personally think she was faking the pregnancy. I think there was like, they had it where Michael Douglas called the doctor and then they confirmed that she was pregnant. I don't know. I feel like the stuff she was doing, you ain't gonna be doing all that stuff while being pregnant and things. So, but anyways, yeah, then again, I'm like, people that got obsessive, behavior issues, they don't care. So it's like, the thing is this, they can have everything on the table for them to benefit their life. If there's somebody or something out there where they got an obsession and addiction to it, yeah, they don't care about none of that. So, yeah, pretty much the whole movie, she was cutting up. She was doing a lot of different stuff. I know the movie is, it's kind of old, and I'm like, there's some scenes in there that I want to talk about, but I know there might be some people that want to just see the movie for themselves for the first time. Let's just say there's a particular scene in there, where it involves a rabbit. And for those that have seen the movie, yeah, you know what scene I'm talking about. And yeah, I'm going to just let you see that scene for yourself. And I'm thinking to myself, if you think that the individual is going to want to be bothered with you after, pretty much, I almost spoiled it, but you did some some crazy things to a rabbit and stuff. But overall, jokes aside, it's like, yeah, you think somebody's gonna want to be bothered with you and you're displaying this obsessive behavior. Why do you think that? Like, that's the thing where I'm like, if I'm gonna sit down and talk with a crazy person now, it's like, okay, I'm gonna ask them some hard-hitting questions. Why do you think an individual, it's like if I act overly obsessive and act like I'm interested in all this other stuff? I mean, even with the last hater that I was talking about, and how this guy, it's funny because he talks about me every day. I told him, I'm like, okay, if you stand by that hate, then it's like, actually do some things to showcase you're doing stuff that's all. I heard some stuff outside. But anyways, you're doing stuff that people have already seen before. So if you think you're going to attract a new audience, you're not. That's why you've been in the same position. It's funny. He didn't get nowhere the last time besides being exposed as a pedophile. And that's why he had to take down his last Twitter account. But anyway, so he created a new Twitter account and he's pretty much just doing the same thing as he was doing before. And it's like, what are you gaining off of that? It was funny because the only person that he gained, because there was like this hater, he got like a Jeepers Creepers mentality where he shows up to my channel instead of like every 23 years, maybe every 23 months or something like that. But anyways, he was, I think that was the only person, but because at the time I was thinking that the obsessive Twitter guy right now, that, he was a kid, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, the other guy, he was a full grown adult, so I'm like, why are you out here, you know, I guess trying to recruit kids on being in a hate group? I'm like, what's your agenda? What you got going on and stuff? And then, yeah, he disappeared after that because it was like, yeah, I think he realized that, you know, that's not normal. It's like I'm a grown man talking with kids about somebody that I don't like. I'm like, you got to realize that, you know, there's a lot more to life than sitting around hating on somebody. But yeah, it's like, you know, you got people out there, they don't understand that. And so they'd rather just sit around and be all obsessive and all that stuff. And then usually they do have those outcomes. And it's funny because so this obsession movie, how it ended, it wasn't like your traditional obsession movies. Like there was the one movie called Obsessed where it had Beyonce. It was such a weird casting, but at the same time, because it was like you never would think at some point in time these guys will all be doing a movie together, but it was Beyonce. Idris Elba was her husband. I think that woman's name is like Ali Carter or something like that. Ali Larder. I don't know. I just know that she was in my favorite movie, House on Haunted Hills. But anyways, it's either Larder or Carter. Larder. Okay, so I never could get her name right. But anyways, but yeah, she was the obsessive person. But yeah, overall though, like they had both that movie Obsessed and then Fatal Attraction. They both had the same outcome. There's never, and even with the new Obsessed movie or Obsession movie, it's like there's never a positive outcome for people like that, you know. So you would think that people will understand, but they don't. You know, they get so caught up in their head, and it's like, yeah, you know, your head is a dangerous place. And that's the thing where it's like, you know, again, saying that, explaining that, are you gonna listen? So yeah, that's why I'm like, at times I've given up though on trying to explain things. I'm like, you know, you want to sit around that crazy and be weird, and I'm like, then that's on you, bruh. You know, eventually, the funny thing is though, is that that's how I always look at it. And even with my biggest hater, you know, people were calling him out for the hate that he had surrounding me and stuff. But I feel like that there was other bigger things to be talking about. I just think that I was like that small little corner where it had to have been addressed at some point. But anyways, but no, it's like every hater that I had to say that I done dealt with, they all got called out on the hatred that they've had towards me. Cause it's like, you're hating on him for no reason. He ain't did nothing to you. Minnesota boy. It was like, you're hating on him because he doesn't want to be racist. Does that make any sense? And then the Thomas the Tank Engine fan base, it's like, you're hating on him because he's exposing weirdos within this community. I'm saying like 30-something-year-old men, and then the majority of your followers, men and women, and the majority of your followers are kids, or even the subject that you guys are talking about. Primarily, it's going to be kids that's within that subject. It ain't like it's more kids than adults, you know? So, but yeah, it's like people were trying to get on me for that, and then it ended up getting flipped back on them. Then with Just a Robot, it was like, you know, people, he was all those years displaying that hatred. Then it got flipped back on him. And, you know, at the end of the day, my thing is this. If you want to be a racist, I guess, you know, more so talking on Minnesota Boys situation, fine, be a racist. Just don't get people involved. If you want to be a fan of Thomas the Tank Engine, cool, be a fan of Thomas the Tank Engine. But when you get to talking with a bunch of kids online, that looks weird, you know, because I'm just saying, if I have kids, I don't want my kids talking to no full-grown adult that's hidden behind some trained identity and stuff. So yeah, it's like, I guess, you know, people that want kids, or, you know, that has kids, they'll see it from my perspective. But I guess somebody that don't want kids and don't have kids, and it's like they don't want nothing to do with kids, they won't understand it as much. So, but then with you know, Just a Robot, it's like, you know, if you as an individual have a hatred on somebody, don't try to get other people involved. It's like, if you can't resolve whatever issues that you have with that person, then it's like, okay, then go your separate ways. But it's like, he couldn't resolve the issues that he had with me, so he had to recruit his fans and get them to hate on me for a long period of time. Yeah, it's stuff like that where I'm all like, you know, got some weirdos out there. I feel like besides talking on, you know, obsessive haters, I feel like I just, you know, I had to say some things about just haters in general and stuff. You know, at times I feel like that there are some where it's like, you know, they're not really considered obsessive, but they are considered haters, but they realize it at some point in time where it's like, dang, I was hating like I was, you know, and I feel like it kind of falls in like that category of the Obsession movie for those that have seen it and seen the ending and stuff. And, you know, I ain't gonna spoil the movie, I guess, for those that haven't seen it yet, but for those that have seen it and then you've seen how the ending was, yeah, it's like, you know, some haters had that moment in things where it's all like, wow, like I didn't realize that it was it was that bad. Like what happened? Like what's I feel like I did kind of spoil the movie for some people and so go watch the movie, okay? Just please go watch the movie. But anyways, but yeah, it's like, you know, they grow out of it and things. Then you got some out there where it's like, here it is, they a full grown adult and they still can't grow out of it. I mean, having it, I think that's something that always amazes me, is that I had haters that are older than me. Like I still like, because when all that stuff had happened back years ago with just, I mean, even with Minnesota Boy, I have to say, I think everybody that I've gotten into it with, they were all older than me. Because I think the first hater that I dealt with was back when I was 18, and it was this guy, Clockwork Cyborg. I don't know, because I know there's that one guy, I think they say he was trying to attack the White House. And they claimed he was 19, but I'm like, no, that man was born when the first two numbers start with a 19. He ain't 19. There is no way possible he's 19 and he look older than me. I'm like, I think most people, I think, will argue and say, I'm like, oh yeah, you were the one born in, you know, because what year 19? It was, I'm trying to think if I do that math, 19. I can't do that math right now, but anyways, but I'm like, nah, bro, it's one of those things. That guy, he wasn't 19 and stuff. But getting back to, you know, my haters and things, I kind of lost my train of thought, got a little distracted and stuff. But yeah, but I'm like, all the way back then, it was Clockwork Cyborg, Minnesota Boy. I know it was a lot of the people in the Thomas the Tank Engine. It was mainly the older adults and stuff, like people that was in their 20s and 30s. I was 18 and 19 when dealing with Clockwork Cyborg, Minnesota Boy, and well, no, because I think. No, I was 19. I was 19 when, because I didn't start I just didn't really start taking content creating seriously. It was like my last few months of being 18, but I wasn't really dealing with no hate besides like just their common hater and things. But like the obsessive haters, people showing up to your channel on a regular basis. Yeah, I was like, I didn't start dealing with that until I was 19 and stuff. And so, but yeah, it was like a lot of people that I was dealing with, they was like in their late 20s, if not somewhere in their 30s. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, y'all don't find this weird? Like, you hating on a teenager? Like, I'm kind of confused by it and stuff. But anyways, yeah, it's one of those things. I'm like, you know, one day they'll get an understanding of it. And if they don't, then, you know, like I said, they all have the same outcome. You know, stuff ends up getting flipped back on them. So, but anyways, that's something that they should, you know, people should really sit down and think about. Don't be all like, oh, TMossBoss is just trying to say something to intimidate me and this and that. No, that's real life facts. There has never been a successful hater. If so, name one. I'm like, but other than that, I'm like, I'm trying to think. I feel like people, they try to get all, you know, get all history like on me and things. All like, oh, well, what about this person? What about that person and stuff? And I'm like, and look at the outcomes. I guess if somebody like, you know, Hitler, for an example, you know, people are like, oh, he was a hater. He was a successful hater. And I'm like, and how'd that turn out? Man got cornered and he blew his brains out. So I'm all like, yeah, there ain't no such thing as a successful hater and things. So, but anyways, yeah, you might get some things done here and there, but other than that, it's like, yeah, it's gonna be the same outcome. It's like that unsuccessful rate is very high when it comes to you know, haters and stuff. Haters, obsessive haters, constructive criticism haters, all that. So, but anyways, with that being said, talk to y'all later. Thank you guys for watching and or listening. Stay tuned for the next episode. Like, subscribe, viewing this on YouTube. Follow or subscribe, viewing this on a podcast streaming service, and peace.